Push. Recruit. I said push. Or are those noodles you call arms, sweetheart? His voice cuts through the PT field like a blade scraping metal, sharp enough that 43 recruits in 3rd Platoon freeze mid-rep to listen. Drill Sergeant Wade Halsey stands over her, arms crossed like he owns not just this base, but the entire training command. His campaign hat throws a shadow across the gravel. That shadow falls across her hands, still planted shoulder width, still moving through Rep 17 without a wobble. The morning air smells like diesel and cut grass, and the particular sourness of 400 recruits who haven't showered since 0500. Somewhere behind the formation, a truck idles. Boots shuffle on gravel, a whistle shrieks twice from the far end of the field, and nobody moves, because Halsey hasn't dismissed anyone yet. He wants an audience. He always wants an audience. 14 years in, 6 as a drill sergeant, and Halsey wears every one of them like a costume. Chest ribbons arranged for maximum visual effect. Boots polished to a shine that has nothing to do with regulation and everything to do with performance. He carries himself like a man who mistook apparent authority over recruits for the real kind. The sort that doesn't need an audience to exist. It's a mistake that's about to cost him more than he currently has the imagination to fear. Private Ava Ryder does not look up. 29 years old, according to her file. Average height, unremarkable build, the kind of appearance built to be forgotten in a hallway. No rank insignia beyond the single chevron every recruit wears the same way. Her hands move with a grip that doesn't belong to someone who allegedly failed her first attempt at basic training 11 years ago and just now worked up the nerve to try again. Her push-up form is textbook. Not fast, not slow. Metronomic? You hear me, Ryder? Halsey crouches lower, close enough that recruits nearby can smell his aftershave and his arrogance in equal measure. This isn't summer camp. This is the United States Army. We don't carry dead weight. She finishes Rep 20, comes to rest position, says nothing. I asked you a question. 18 more, drill sergeant. Her voice stays level. 6 words. No heat in it. Somewhere in the crowd, a laugh starts and spreads the way laughter does when a group needs permission to enjoy someone else's humiliation. Halsey grins at that laugh like it's applause. He straightens, turns to the formation, raises his voice for maximum reach. Everybody take a good look. This is what happens when the Army lowers its standards to make a quota. He gestures at her like she's a training aide. 29 years old and doing push-ups like a nursing home patient. She keeps counting. 21. 22. Her breathing doesn't change. 4 counts in, hold 4. 4 counts out, hold 4. The rhythm of someone who learned to control her heartbeat under conditions no PT test could replicate. Halsey doesn't know that rhythm. He only sees a recruit who refuses to break, and that refusal irritates him more than tears would. Near the equipment shed, an older man in cadre khaki watches without moving. Command Sergeant Major Earl Whitfield, 62 years old, 34 years in uniform. Close enough to retirement that most people assume he's coasting. He isn't. He's been watching Ryder for 6 days, the way a man watches weather that doesn't match the forecast. What he notices isn't the push-ups. It's her hands. The precise spacing. The exact angle of her wrists, distributing weight the way instructors at schools most soldiers never hear of drill into muscle memory until it survives exhaustion, survives mockery, survives everything except unconsciousness. Whitfield has seen that grip exactly twice before in 3 decades. Both times it belonged to operators whose names never appeared on a standard personnel roster. His pen stops moving over his clipboard. He doesn't write anything down. Not yet. Halsey keeps talking, because Halsey always keeps talking. Maybe if the recruiting stations weren't so desperate, we wouldn't be babysitting grandmothers through basic training. Another ripple of laughter, thinner this time. A few recruits already uncomfortable with where this is going, but too smart to show it. Ryder finishes rep 25, holds position. Doesn't ask for water. Doesn't ask him to stop. The stillness in her is the loudest thing on the field. Louder than his voice. Louder than the truck engine idling somewhere behind the bleachers. And Halsey can't read stillness the way he can read fear. So he escalates instead. On your feet, Ryder. Let's see if you can run better than you push. She stands. Doesn't brush the gravel from her palms. Doesn't look at the recruits still watching. Looks at him. Just long enough to make the moment hers instead of his. Higher than yours, drill sergeant. You just don't know it yet. The words land soft. No volume behind them. But something in the way she says it makes two recruits nearby stop laughing entirely. The kind of laugh that invites everyone else to join in, now curdling into something closer to confusion. Halsey blinks, recalibrates. Decides she's being smart with him, because smart is easier to punish than mysterious. Get in formation, he snaps, and the moment breaks, and the platoon moves, and Whitfield watches her walk back into ranks with a posture too exact to be accidental, and a face that gives away absolutely nothing at all. He's seen that grip exactly twice before, in 3 decades, and both memories surface now, whether he wants them or not. Once at a joint exercise overseas, watching a woman nobody officially introduced move through a crowded room like she already knew every exit before she walked in. Once, at a memorial service, he wasn't officially cleared to attend for a communications team that died in what the report called a training accident, though nobody present that day quite believed the paperwork. Both times, the silence afterward felt engineered rather than earned. Both times, he filed the feeling away and never spoke of it again. He writes one line in his notebook. Not her name, just a question mark. And beneath it, the date. The story spreads before lunch. That's how it works on a training base. No group chats officially. But word travels through mess hall tables and smoke pits, and the 20 minutes before lights out faster than any official channel could manage. By the time 3rd Platoon sits down for chow, Ryder has a nickname. Grandma. Nursing home. Somebody adds a 3rd one that doesn't survive past noon, because even recruits looking for an easy laugh sense there's something off about mocking a woman who never once raised her voice. By 0758, a crowd is gathered near the bulletin board outside the mess hall, drawn by a printout somebody taped up overnight, a mock training scorecard with her name at the bottom. A joke score circled in red marker. Nobody claims credit. Nobody has to. Halsey walks past it twice that morning and doesn't take it down, which everyone understands as its own kind of endorsement. She eats alone. Not because nobody will sit with her, a few recruits try, out of pity or curiosity, but because she chooses the table by the wall, the one with sightlines to both exits, the one where she can watch who defers to whom, without appearing to watch anything at all. The tray in front of her holds food that tastes like institutional efficiency, and she eats it without complaint, filing away information nobody asked her to collect. She notices things. The way Halsey's junior instructors go quiet whenever he's in earshot, not from respect, but from something closer to fear. The way supply requests for 3rd Platoon's training equipment have been rerouted twice in the last month, according to a bulletin board nobody bothers reading. The way a civilian contractor's truck parks near the ammunition supply point at hours that don't match any posted schedule. Always the same 3-digit plate. Always gone before the morning shift arrives to notice it. None of this appears in any official complaint. None of it would survive a formal inquiry on its own. But stacked together, quietly, over 11 days, it forms exactly the kind of pattern her actual employers sent her here to confirm. 2 recruits at the far end of her table talk in low voices, thinking she can't hear them, forgetting that hearing is exactly the kind of skill nobody bothers hiding from an audience they've already dismissed. You see her out there this morning? Didn't even blink. Halsey's gonna break her by the end of the week. He always does. I don't know, man, something's off about her. Not scared off. Just off. The recruit lowers his voice further, glancing her way without quite looking at her. The kind of quiet that makes you not want to find out why. She doesn't react to any of it. She finishes her tray, stacks it, and walks it to the return window with the same unhurried precision she brings to everything else, filing the exchange away with the rest of the day's small, useless intelligence. The afternoon brings new indignities. Halsey assigns her extra details, latrine duty, equipment inventory, the kind of busy work designed to embarrass rather than train. She completes each one with the same mechanical precision she brings to everything, and each time, Whitfield finds a reason to be nearby. He notices the authentication code she enters on the supply terminal, a 6-digit sequence she inputs in under 10 seconds. Most soldiers fumble that terminal for 5 minutes. She doesn't fumble. Her fingers move like she's typed that exact sequence 1,000 times on 100 different keypads. He notices when she disassembles a jammed rifle during a maintenance detail, hands moving through the process with an economy of motion that belongs to a range instructor, not a recruit on her second attempt at basic training. Her sleeve rides up during the work, just far enough to show the edge of a scar along her forearm, not surgical, not clean, the jagged, irregular kind that comes from shrapnel, from being too close to something that exploded before someone dragged her clear of it. He notices that she knows his rank without glancing at his uniform, addressing him correctly before he's said a word. The way people do when they've spent years around soldiers instead of months. During a nightland navigation exercise, she moves through unfamiliar terrain without once switching on her flashlight, reading the ground by feel and memory the way someone does after doing it for real. In places where a light source means someone finds you before you find them. Whitfield watches her cut a straight line through timber that has 3 other recruits walking in circles, and he says nothing, and he adds it to the file. The next afternoon, Halsey stages what he calls a readiness drill in front of the full company, a surprise contact reaction exercise meant to catch recruits flat-footed for everyone's entertainment. She reacts before the whistle finishes its first note. Down. Oriented. Scanning. The kind of muscle memory that doesn't come from a manual and can't be taught in 11 days no matter how good the instructor is. Halsey watches this from the sideline, jaw working, unable to decide whether to be impressed or threatened, and settles, as he always does, on threatened. Where do recruit learn to move like that? He asks her directly, in front of the formation, an edge in his voice that wasn't there yesterday. YouTube. Drill sergeant. 4 words. No smile behind them, though several recruits nearby have to fight one down. He doesn't laugh. Nobody dares to laugh with him this time. The silence that follows isn't submission. It's 43 recruits recalculating who they're actually afraid of, and it isn't him anymore. Each observation goes into the same mental file. He doesn't share it. Not yet. 34 years in uniform teaches a man patience most civilians mistake for indifference. At the qualification range that afternoon, Halsey finds one more audience to perform for. 50 recruits wait their turn on the firing line while he walks behind Ryder's lane, loud enough for everyone to hear. Let's see the nursing home patient shoot. He nods at the rangemaster, who calls her lane hot before she's ready, an old trick meant to rattle recruits who don't expect it. She doesn't rattle. She settles into position, breathes her 4 count without anyone noticing it's a technique instead of a habit, and puts every round through a group so tight the rangemaster has to walk downrange twice to confirm what his own scope told him the first time. Beginner's luck, Halsey says, to nobody in particular, because there's nothing else left to say. The rangemaster doesn't answer him. He just writes the score down twice, checks it a 3rd time, and glances toward the equipment shed where Whitfield stands with his arms crossed, watching the same thing everyone else just watched, except seeing something entirely different in it. Not a lucky recruit. The kind of grouping that comes from thousands of hours nobody puts on a training scorecard. That evening, Halsey escalates past mockery into something with teeth. He summons her to the company office, alone, no witnesses except a duty clerk pretending not to listen. "Your file's got gaps in it, Ryder." He leans back in his chair, enjoying himself, performing for an audience of exactly 1 board clerk. Prior attempt at basic, 11 years ago. Then, nothing. No civilian employment record worth mentioning. No explanation for a decade of your life. He smiles the way men smile when they think they've cornered something. "You want to tell me what you were really doing all that time? Or should I start a formal inquiry?" She controls her breathing. 4 counts in, hold 4. 4 counts out, hold 4. System diagnostics. 3 words. Flat? For 11 years? Classified employer. What agency? Can't say. Can't or won't. Doesn't matter which. She holds his gaze without heat in it, without anything he can push against. "You'll get the same answer either way, drill sergeant. There's no such thing as a classified employer for a recruit with your background." He stands, walks around the desk, close enough that his shadow falls across her boots. "I'm ordering a full security review. Access restrictions. You'll be confined to barracks pending the outcome." He waits for her to argue. She doesn't. That absence of protest unsettles him more than resistance would. "Dismissed," he says, when the silence stretches longer than he can stand. She leaves without another word. Whitfield, standing in the hallway outside, watches her pass and says nothing either. But his jaw tightens, just slightly, and something flickers across his face, just for a heartbeat. Then it's gone. By 1600, she's back at her temporary quarters, restricted from the training schedule. A guard posted outside her door, as if a recruit under investigation might make a run for the perimeter fence in broad daylight. She sits on the edge of her bunk, back straight, hands folded, and waits with the particular patience of someone who has waited out worse than an afternoon in a locked room. 3 hours later, the pattern has a name he can't quite say out loud yet. By 2200, the barracks have gone dark except for the hallway light outside a single locked door, and somewhere in a data center 4 states away, a system nobody at Fort Merrick knows exists, logs a missed check-in and begins its own quiet countdown. The holding room measures 10 feet by 8. Concrete walls the color of old teeth. A metal bench bolted to the floor. A single window near the ceiling, too high to see anything except a strip of sky going gray with early dawn. The air smells like disinfectant losing a losing battle against something older underneath it. Sweat, fear, the accumulated residue of every soldier who's ever sat on that same bench waiting for someone above them to decide their fate. This is the near-fail moment. The point where anyone watching from the outside would think she's finished. Confined, stripped of her temporary access badge, cut off from the investigation she came here to run. Except games have rules, and she's about to show every person on this base they've been playing the wrong one entirely. She sits with her back straight, hands loose in her lap, watch turned face up on her wrist. Nobody thought to confiscate it. Nobody ever does. That's the advantage of looking like exactly what you're pretending to be. Recruits don't get their watches taken, because recruits don't have anything worth hiding inside a watch. Her watch reads 0547. In 23 minutes, a handler 3 time zones away will notice her check-in window has closed and will authorize the release of a data packet that's been sitting encrypted on a secure server since the day she arrived at Fort Merrick. A packet containing 18 months of falsified maintenance logs, tracing directly back to Halsey's supply requests. In 63 minutes, a criminal investigation division team already staged at a motel 11 miles from the main gate. A team she briefed herself, under a name that doesn't appear on any Fort Merrick roster, will move on the ammunition supply point and the civilian contractor's truck that has no business parking there after hours. In approximately 2 hours, Drill Sergeant Wade Halsey is going to learn the difference between the authority he performs for an audience of recruits and the authority that answers to nobody on this base at all. 3 months ago, when this operation was still a folder on a desk instead of a room with concrete walls, she chose this exact watch for this exact reason. Nobody confiscates a recruit's watch. Nobody ever thinks to. Not confident. Not anxious. Just precise. The way she's been precise about every single thing since she walked through the gate 11 days ago, pretending to be someone 11 years past her prime. She thinks, briefly, about the team this operation is actually for. 3 names on a memorial plaque nobody at Fort Merrick has ever seen. 3 families who received a folded flag and an accident report full of gaps nobody was allowed to ask about. She thinks about the 18 months it took to build a cover identity solid enough to survive a background check, 11 days it took to get herself locked in a room exactly like this one, and the 23 minutes left before the first domino falls. This is the part of the job nobody sees in a personnel file. The waiting. The stillness. The absolute refusal to move before the moment is ready to move with her. Footsteps in the hallway. Not hers. Whitfield's. She recognizes the particular unevenness in his gait, an old knee injury from a jump gone wrong decades before she was born. He doesn't come inside. He stops outside the door, close enough that she hears him exhale, long and slow, like a man setting down a weight he's carried since yesterday morning. "I'd be very careful about this one," he says to someone she can't see. His voice carries no volume, no theater, just certainty. I've seen that grip before. Twice, both times, it ended badly for the man standing across from her. Nobody answers him. He walks away. By 0630, the parking lot outside battalion headquarters fills with vehicles that don't belong to Fort Merrick's normal rotation. Black SUVs, government plates. The kind of arrival that suggests this isn't a social visit. Halsey watches from his office window. Coffee going cold in his hand, confidence draining out of him, one vehicle at a time. 4 agents in plain clothes move through the building with the specific purpose of people executing a plan drafted weeks in advance. Behind them, a full bird colonel from division walks in step with a woman in a tailored civilian suit who introduces herself to nobody and waits for nobody's permission. Their boots move in a rhythm too synchronized to be coincidence. The kind of appearance that says this is official business at the highest level, and every clerk in the hallway finds a reason to stand a little straighter as they pass. A duty sergeant tries to intercept them at the front desk, asking for credentials, asking who authorized this, and the woman in the suit answers without breaking stride, sliding a single laminated card across the counter that makes the duty sergeant go quiet and step aside without another word. They don't go to Halsey's office first. They go to the holding room. The door opens, and Ryder stands, and for the first time in 11 days, someone salutes her before she says a single word. It's the woman in the suit who does it. Sharp, formal, the kind of gesture that carries decades of protocol behind it. "Master Sergeant," she says. "Sorry about the delay. Traffic from the airfield." The corridor behind them fills fast. Halsey arrives at a half-run, still buttoning his uniform jacket, already talking before he understands what he's walking into. "This recruit is under a formal security review. I have every right to." "You have no rights here, Sergeant." The colonel's voice doesn't rise. It doesn't need to. This soldier has been operating under a classified assignment, authorized 4 levels above your entire chain of command. Whitfield steps forward from the crowd gathering in the hallway, and this is the moment he's been building toward since the PT field 6 days ago. He looks at Ryder's forearm. At the sleeve she's rolled back without ceremony, revealing what's been hidden beneath it the entire time, a black dagger wrapped in silver thread, a crest most soldiers only ever see on recruiting posters, and beneath it, stitched in numbers that appear on no public roster and no training manual. A designation Whitfield has seen exactly once before, briefed to him under an oath of silence he's never broken. The dagger points downward through a shield split into 4 quarters, wrapped in a motto stitched too small to read from more than a foot away. The kind of detail added by someone who never expected it to be seen in a hallway full of strangers. Whitfield has read that motto exactly once before, on a folded flag at a funeral he wasn't supposed to attend, for people whose unit designation officially didn't exist. His hand rises to salute before his mind finishes processing what his eyes have already confirmed. Not fast, not hesitant either. The kind of movement a body makes when 34 years of instinct override thought entirely. The room detonates into silence. Not the ordinary quiet of a hallway between announcements. A silence with weight to it, texture. The kind that makes people check the exits without meaning to. Someone drops a tablet near the back of the crowd. The clatter echoes off concrete like a gunshot. A boot scuffs tile. Nobody breathes for a 3 count that feels like a year. Then Whitfield's salute lands, full and formal, and the colonel returns it out of instinct before he even means to. And behind them, one by one, 11 drill sergeants who came running at the sound of vehicles pulling into the lot go rigid and follow. A cascade of raised hands moving through the hallway like a wave finding its shoreline. Who else is watching this and thinking about how many people they've dismissed without ever asking what they were carrying underneath? Halsey doesn't salute. He can't. His face cycles through confusion, denial, and something that looks uncomfortably close to fear. And his hand stays frozen at his side while every other hand in the corridor rises around him. Master Sergeant Ava Ryder, the woman in the suit, says, loud enough for the record, loud enough for every person in that hallway to hear it exactly once. 7th Special Forces Group, 2 combat tours nobody in this building has clearance to read about. The extraction outside Kandahar that half the instructors here still teach in a classroom without knowing whose file it came from. And the only surviving member of a communications team this sergeant's black market supply chain got killed 18 months ago in a training accident that was never an accident at all. Halsey's mouth opens. Nothing comes out. Outside, word has already reached the barracks. Recruits crowd the second-floor windows, the same 43 faces that laughed at her on the PT field 6 days ago. Watching black government vehicles ring the headquarters building like something out of a movie none of them expected to star in. Someone near the back window starts to laugh out of pure disbelief, and the recruit beside him elbows him quiet before it finishes leaving his mouth. Nobody laughs twice at Fort Merrick, not after this. Every person in this hallway, including your battalion commander, answers to the authority behind her classification, the colonel adds. And that's the sentence that finally breaks something in Halsey's expression. Not anger, not defiance, Just a slow, sinking understanding of exactly how much smaller he is than he spent 11 days pretending to be. The arrest happens quietly. No handcuffs paraded through the mess hall. No theater for an audience he no longer commands. 2 agents walk him to a separate vehicle, while a third begins sealing his office for evidence. He doesn't fight it. There's nothing left in him to fight with. Ryder doesn't watch him go. She's already reading a brief on a tablet handed to her by the agent nearest the door, already 3 steps into whatever comes next. Because justice, for her, was never the destination. It was just the checkpoint before the next one. Whitfield finds her a few minutes later, standing alone near the flagpole while the parking lot empties out around her. He doesn't salute again. There's no audience left to perform for, and he suspects, correctly, that she never wanted the salute in the first place. 11 days, he says. You could have ended this on day 1. Showed your credentials, walked out clean. Halsey wasn't the target on day 1. She watches the last black SUV pull through the gate. He was the only lead I had to whoever's running the supply chain above him. Every day I stayed was a day closer to a name that matters more than his. And now? Now I write the report and wait for the next assignment. She says it the way other people talk about weather. There's always a next one. The sunset over the water beyond the base perimeter paints the sky in shades of orange fading into deep purple. The kind of evening that makes 11 hard days feel briefly, deceptively far away. Her watch reads 1912 when she finally sits down on the porch steps of the guest quarters, boots off for the first time in 11 days. The ocean beyond the fence line breathing in and out like something enormous and patient. They mocked her push-ups. They forgot that record was written by people who'd already tried to kill her once and failed. Whitfield finds her there an hour later, 2 cups of coffee in his hands, and sits down without asking permission, because 34 years of service earns a man that particular kind of ease. You could have told me, he says. You figured it out anyway, not accusation, just fact. Wasn't hard once I stopped assuming what I was looking at. He hands her the coffee. Justice isn't loud. Took me 30 years to learn that. You already knew it at 29. Wasn't a choice. She turns the cup slowly in her hands, watching steam rise and vanish. You learn patience fast when the alternative gets people killed. The team in the report. He says it carefully, half a question. That was yours. Mine, 1 word. Everything underneath it stays exactly where she wants it. Private and unspoken. 18 months. I've been the only name left on that roster since the accident report closed the file. Whitfield doesn't offer sympathy. He's spent enough decades around soldiers like her to know sympathy is the wrong currency here. He offers silence instead, and she seems to prefer it that way. She takes the cup. Doesn't answer right away. Somewhere past the tree line, a transport plane climbs into the darkening sky. Engines fading into the general hum of the base, settling into evening. There's still a name on my list, she says eventually. Whoever authorized the shipment. Halsey was the delivery, not the source. She looks toward the water, toward the horizon, where the last orange light gives way completely to night. Someone photographed a rooftop in Manila last month. Same signature on the paperwork. Same supply chain. Whitfield doesn't ask her to explain further. He's learned in the space of 11 days exactly how much explanation she's willing to give, and it's exactly enough and never more. The base settles into full dark around them, the way it does every night regardless of what happened in daylight, regardless of who got arrested, or who got promoted, or who finally understood how badly they'd misjudged the person standing in front of them. Somewhere out past the flight line, engines spin up for a night training flight that has nothing to do with her. and she watches the lights climb and disappear into the low cloud cover without a trace of longing for a normal life she stopped wanting a decade ago. Tomorrow brings new ghosts to hunt. Every soldier carries a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVP Stories for more.